All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a couple things in this video. We're going to drill our gun barrels and also going to go ahead and magnetize a couple of options for our knob. So today we have the commandos, but you could just as easily do this on any other models. But all we need for this basically is a couple magnets, couple drill bits, and of course some sort of drill. In this case, I have the Citadel drill. This is the one they offer. It is a cool tool. It's nice to have. It comes with quite a few small drill bits. The back part swivels. Obviously, you can tighten and loosen this and swap out the drill bits, but it's nice because you can hold it in your hand and spin the drill, and this part sits against your hand, and basically allows it to swivel. So, and it's pretty simple. You could probably find a cheaper one somewhere else. I like this one because it comes with a nice little case, a bunch of different drill bits with like these tiny little sizes. And even if this one can only take like real small drill bits, so it's not ideal for every situation. But a lot of times I'll go ahead and drill like a lead hole with this, and then I can just come back in with my bigger drill bit later, in like a power drill or different hand drill or whatever, and it's no problem. I don't have to worry about it like deviating from the initial like pilot hole. So I'll drill the pilot hole still with one of these small bits, and then I'll come back in with the appropriate size bit afterwards. So in this case, we have like the larger size hole basically inside of the arm. We'll see also for the head options, we have a large size hole there too. So if we want to go ahead and put a magnet in there, we're going to need to put a larger size magnet as well. So some of the small magnets are not going to be an option. So we're going to go ahead and do some pilot holes with the small drill and drill out our gun barrels, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So I went through and scraped the mold lines pretty good. Occasionally you'll still like see one here or there. Sometimes you'll have to fix it obviously after you prime them. But overall, it should be pretty nice. There's typically going to be a mold line right on the tip of the barrel. So the best thing to do is get that off there. And then what we want to do is take the like drill and like the sharp little tip. We want to line it up perfectly with the center and then just kind of press it in there and make sure that we have it centered to start with. And then we just want to start slowly and just check it a couple times and make sure that we're centered. Because the worst thing we could do is like off center the like gun barrel hole, because we can't really fix it once we start the hole wrong. So I basically just press it in there. Just make sure it's nice and centered. Just double check, make sure everything looks good. The deeper we go, the harder it is to fix. So we want to make sure that as we're going, everything is working out. So, it's like that measure twice, cut once type thing. And it looks good. We're nice and centered. So now I can go ahead and just use the drill correctly. So I just put it back in my hand, rest the part right here on my hand, and then it allows me to just swivel it, clockwise and just kind of drill out that hole. So, and that's it. There's really nothing to it. You can go as deep or as shallow as you want. Obviously, the deeper you go, the cooler it looks because it's like dark down in there. But once you go a certain depth, it doesn't really matter anyway. So that's it. We just drilled out our little barrel. So we just want to go through and do that for each of them. And most importantly for the boss knob, obviously don't want to drill out the scope. So not two barrels, just want to drill the bottom one there. So same thing, we're just going to kind of line it up and give it a little push there first and make sure we get the hole nice and centered. And you'll see that's kind of off, so we can still fix that. It's no problem at all. There we go. That looks pretty good. And we want to be super careful that this one, make sure it is lined up perfectly. Because we have like those little slits on the side of the barrel. So if we mess this up, the barrel is actually partially hollow. We can start messing up the barrel pretty quick on this one. So we want to be real, like, relaxed and go nice and slow. Don't get too aggressive or anything with this because we do not want to ruin this gun. And you probably can't tell, but I am barely pushing it all, and these drill bits are extremely sharp, so they take very little effort. It's important that you have nice, sharp, useful tools. Okay, so now I've actually made it down into the actual barrel part where it's kind of hollowed out. And we can see now the drill bit is officially making it inside of the barrel there. You can see it moving around inside. So again, we just want to double check, make sure everything looks okay. We're not splitting the barrel or damaging it or anything. Kind of clear out the extra little bits here, and we're just going to go a little bit further. All right, and there we have it, our boss commando knob drilled out there, and you can see how far the drill bit actually goes in, and there's a little slit there. So we just want to go ahead and clear out that tiny little bit of extra debris. All right, so there we go. I went ahead and cleared it out, and now we can see, you can actually see through the barrel there. Went ahead and just cleared out any bits of debris that were in there. And as you can see, it's actually like hollow through there, and you can see straight through it. So that is the barrel all drilled out and looking good on all of our guns. So now we want to go ahead and magnetize these options. So the first thing I do when I'm preparing to magnetize something is I go ahead and test fit the pieces that I'm going to magnetize. And then I'll go ahead and pull them out and just kind of see where are these going to need to line up. Where's the best place to put the actual magnet? Do they need to completely touch each other? Can I just put a magnet there relatively and it's going to be strong enough to hold it in place roughly? Does it need to be perfect? If I put a magnet here, is it going to interfere with the magnet I put in the arm? There's lots of different factors to take into account. So I just want to make sure that I'm going to be able to get like good connectivity. And if I have one magnet that's going to be more difficult, I want to do that one first. So overall, seems pretty straightforward. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any kind of issues or anything. Overall, should be a simple process. So let's go ahead and start with the pilot hole on the body. We already have basically a pilot hole built into the arm. So we want to essentially just kind of line that up and see when we put this on our knob, where is that hole going to be? So if we just kind of imagine where that's at, it's pretty well centered, a little bit down from like the top muscle of the arm. So when we put our magnet in there, assuming it just goes straight into the arm, it's going to be basically going into like the shoulder muscle. So we just want to make sure that we roughly put our magnet there, like for our pilot hole for the magnet on the same spot. So I'd say we want it just roughly like centered right around this area here. So again, we just start slow, make sure that looks nice and centered. Once we put our larger size magnet in there, is it going to line up and everything? Which we are going to use a decent sized magnet because the hole is so big on the arm. Now we could use a small magnet on the body and a big magnet on the arm, and that would work perfectly fine. Or we could use like some putty or something to fill the larger hole on the arm. But there's no reason we can't just use an oversized magnet if we want to. And we'll see we made it through. We've got a nice little pilot hole there. And if we want to drill this out to like larger sizes, we can go ahead and step it up with like various sizes along the way. So now let's go ahead and put a pilot hole for the head as well. So on just looking at our other arm real quick, we can see that the inside of that arm is basically exactly the same. So when we compare the power fist and the big choppa, the magnet is going to be in the same spot. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I already checked it out. So all right, so now for the head, we know how that's going to fit in there. It's basically just going to sit right like that. And there's our other head option as well. So we want to look and see where do we need to magnetize that at? Where's our best spot? So on the back of the head for the neck, doesn't look like it's going to make a difference at all. And then we see there's like two little ridges basically, like around the middle. And we know that that's going to line up basically with this area right here. So that's where we're going to go ahead and put our magnet at. So we can see we have like the beginning of our pilot hole. It looks like it's a tiny bit off center. So we can just angle the drill bit a little bit towards where we want the hole to move. So we want to move it a little bit to the side. And then we can just kind of like let it go where it's going. And we'll see that kind of centers out the hole for us. So we'll go just a little deeper with that pilot hole. And there we made it all the way into like the hollowed out portion. So we can see now that the holes actually will intersect with each other. So we have to worry about the polarity of the magnets, especially if we're going to use like larger ones, so they don't interfere with each other too much. We want to make sure that we get a nice fit in there, and then we'll be able to get them to work with each other instead of against each other. So again, now that we know where that's going to go, we can see like the little ridges on the neck and how they line up. So we just want to make sure that we put our hole in the same spot on our heads. So we can see that's roughly like right here in the center for where the magnet needs to be just be lined up perfectly. And once we have like little indentation, just hold our drill correctly, line that up. And we're using almost no pressure at all. Just want to make sure that we get the hole in the right spot, and then we can start drilling from there. And we don't want to go so deep that we like pop out the eyeball or anything. So there we have the first one. And we just want to do the same thing again with this one. And you can see that one was just a little high. So I went ahead and just angled it downwards, started drilling, and then I just let the drill bit kind of move into that spot. And that'll move the hole downwards just slightly. You know, it's not perfect, but it allows us to kind of cheat just a little bit. So now we have our pilot holes drilled out on everything. All our options are set up. We continue to make them the correct size for the correct magnets that we're going to put in there. So these drill bits are just slightly too big for the actual like chuck on the hand drill. So we're just going to go ahead and just use the power drill for them. Just going to be real careful when we do this. We don't want to get too aggressive. This is a power tool, and those are tiny little delicate plastic models. So, but again, we know that it's already hollowed out through here, so it's going to take very little effort to actually like make this hole larger. So we just want to take it real easy. Right, and there we have the hole nice and big and ready for our magnet. So we'll just go ahead and repeat that for each of the other bits. And there's our second head. And then obviously the holes are already big enough on the knife and the axe. So we just want to go ahead and drill out the pilot holes on the neck and the arm hole as well. And there we go. Just go ahead, clean those up a little bit, and we can get them ready for magnets. So there they are, looking good. This one's like just a little bit oblong for when it broke through. No problem. These magnets will be a nice and tight fit. So we're going to go ahead and use a smaller magnet actually for the body. And then we're going to put our larger magnets in the arms just because of the hole that's already in here. Rather than fill it in, we're just going to use a larger magnet. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my drill bit over. And this is typically the drill bit I will use for like, larger things like, vehicles and stuff like that. But again, just so I don't have to do like any putty work or whatever, just keep it simple. I'm basically use like 2 regular magnet sizes. So the hole is about this big. I'm just going to go ahead and make it big enough to fit the magnet right in the arms. So there's our first one drilled out. Just real careful to make sure that we leave some of the meat around the arms. And then that, all the meat that we drilled out of there is just going to get replaced with the magnet. And we're just going to do the same thing on the power fist, power claw. All right, so there we have it once again, drilled out nicely. And here are the magnets we're going to use. All we want to do is just make sure that when we put the magnet in there, it basically will disappear into the arm, which it will. So it looks like we have it drilled out plenty. So now we're just going to pay attention to the actual model itself. So do we want to put a large magnet in here and a large magnet in here? Or do we just want to use a smaller one? Doesn't really matter, honestly. We could do either one. I tend to go with the smaller one just because we don't really need like a ton of magnetic force. on these models or anything. And it doesn't really matter if we have a big one and a small one. You don't even need technically two magnets. We could just put a magnet in the body and then just put a little piece of metal in the weapons or whatever. Because all we need is just a piece of metal, not even two magnets. But obviously we're just going to use two magnets. So I've got a couple of the smaller ones that we'll put inside the body, and then we'll put the larger ones inside the weapons. Normally I would do it the other way around. I would put the big ones in the body and the small ones in the weapons. But in this case, just because of the way like the arm is and everything, it just makes more sense to do it this way. Basically because the holes were already so big on them. So we're going to do it that way. So the first step is obviously to just like test fit the magnet and make sure it's going to fit in there correctly, and basically disappear inside the arm, which it does perfectly. So that looks good. We have a nice snug fit, but it's not so ridiculous that we can't get it out. So we're just going to put a little super glue down in there. We want enough that we make sure that it gets like good contact and everything, but not so much that it's like squeezing out all over the place. So, and then I keep it, the magnets all going one way, attached to something magnetic. So I make sure that I do them correctly, and I always like double and triple check before I push them in. So that's our first one in there. So now I want to use something that's not magnetic and just make sure that it is like correctly pushed down in there and nice and flush. I like to use my razor blade because it's aluminum, so it's obviously not magnetic, and I just give it a double check, push down in there, and the whole time I'm just being very careful of the little delicate bits that are on here as well. So we can see now we have like a nice flush fit down in there. Everything looks good. It's not like sticking out, protruding like crazy. So that looks good to go. And again, we have these lined up a specific way. So we're just going to go ahead and do the other arm as well. So same thing, just going to apply a little bit of glue, kind of move it around, make sure it gets up on the sides there. And we know these are facing the same way. So I just push it down in there and kind of slide that away, and there we have it. And then we could just double check and make sure everything is still fitting good and nice and flush. So we can see everything is lining up perfectly. The magnet's like not in the way of this like closing or anything. We can do the same thing on this one. And again, we see everything is sitting nice and flush. That's exactly where we want it to be. So we're going to go ahead now and switch over to our smaller magnets. And then we're going to put one inside the arm, one inside the neck, and then one inside of each of the heads. So same thing. I just have 4 of our smaller magnets all lined up on here. So we just want to check the polarity on those. And we see that they are obviously attracted to each other. So we know that if we want them to stay like this, we want the magnet inside his body to be facing the same way, so the arm will hook onto it correctly. So what that means is we need to flip these over this way. So when we go to put them like this, they're going to push away from each other. They don't want to attach. And what that means is when we go to turn this around and push it inside of the body, that will want to stick to it this way. So we're just reversing the way that it's lined up. And again, we're just going to go ahead and test fit it. Looks like it's going to go down in there nicely, and here as well. Looks good also. And just put a little super glue on here. And we don't want to go too crazy because it is hollow. So we want to push it in there and get it started. And then we need something small to push down in there that's not magnetic. So we'll just use our trash brush right here, and just going to go ahead and push that down in there flush. All right, so we've got it nice and deep in there. It's got some glue on it. So again, just going to do a test fit on this. There we go. Sitting down in there how we want it. It's got a pretty nice like pull on it. It's not crazy strong, but it's not weak either. So we'll go ahead and just do the neck as well. And there we have them down in there nice and flush. And we just want to double check here. We're going to flip these magnets over. and make sure the polarity is reversed. Oh, and it's a good thing we checked because they were not. So there we have it, and we're just going to go ahead and test fit it. And looks good. Nice and secure. Strong enough that it's not just going to fall off, but easy to take off if we want to. So, and then again, we'll just do the last one. So there we have it, magnetized, and we've got our gas mask head and power claw, or we can go ahead and swap them out. And there we've got the big choppa and our ball cap trucker hat. So there we have our gun barrels drilled out and ready for paint. We have our simple magnifications done, and now we're all ready to go ahead and prime these bad boys and get them painted. And we can see that just a couple minutes and a couple magnets, basically free modification, and just really upgrades not only the flexibility of our team, so we can swap out our weapons easily, but also drilling out those gun barrels accents the quality of our finished models. So highly recommend a drill, even if you're not going to use the Citadel drill, and even more so recommend doing magnetization. So simple, easy way to upgrade your models. So well, there we have it, guys. That is our orc commandos magnetization, or just infantry magnetization and gun barrel drilling. I am Warhammer Man, this Warhammer Man Studios. If you like tutorials like this, painting tutorials, like to see some commissions when they're all finished, reactions and reviews to new and, coming Games Workshop products, and one day maybe some battle ports as well. Maybe some commandos, maybe some Tau, little kill team. Who knows? There could be Warcry in the future. I guess you'll have to check us out to find out. Well, there you have it, guys. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.